Kendrick Lamar released The Heart Part 5, a teaser for his anticipated upcoming album. In the minimalist music video, they used the deep fake face transforming effect to highlight different celebrities into parts of the song that intertwine with lyrics from their life. But is it possible that Kendrick snuck in a hidden message using a lyrical motif that the vast majority of people may have missed? So in this video, I'll be dissecting some of the lyrics and tying them into another very quotable moment that we've heard one of the icons featured in the music video say before, and the times where I personally interacted with Kendrick in some of our conversations about God and theology.
Ruslan.
A motif is a literary technique that consists of a repeated element that has symbolic significance to a literary work. Sometimes a motif is a recurring image, other times it's a repeated word, phrase, or topic expressed in language. If you guys don't know, Kendrick Lamar has won the Pulitzer Prize for his writing and is actually the only rapper that's ever done that. So I think there's a lot of depth behind Kendrick's music that oftentimes gets glossed over, and that's what we're going to be examining today. If you watch till the very end of the video, I'm going to share a story in terms of my personal interactions with Kendrick, and I've had quite a few in person, not over the internet, not over DMs. And let me just open up by saying that if you're a person of faith, which is primarily my audience here, and you're like, "Ah, Kendrick, bad, he uses profanity." There is an extended podcast I did with the creator of the Dissect podcast that I'll be linking in the cards, in the pinned comments that you can go watch, I'm not saying I agree with everything he says, but my brother made a very compelling argument on why he believes that Damn is one of the most Christian albums out there, all right? So something to think about. I'll link to that video. You guys could go check that out. It's long, and he goes over song by song, lyric by lyric, and it's super duper in depth and really dissecting the lyrics of Damn. So we're not gonna unpack Kendrick's faith and all that kind of stuff. I'll just share my experience with him. So I'm not gonna be playing the actual song just because it'll instantly get demonetized. The video will get flagged because that's how those sorts of things work. But I will be reacting to the lyrics and tying it into something that has been stated before that I think is very interesting. So let me just count out the bag. The motif that I heard is, if we look up here in the lyrics, is every time Kendrick mentions the word culture. And I wanted to go over those. There's some profanity in these lyrics. I'm gonna not read the profanity here, but first verse he says, "Homies and F your baby mama once you hit the yard, that's culture. 23-hour lockdown, then somebody called, said your little nephew was shot down, that's the culture's involved." And then he says, "Cars washed, new GoFundMe accounts, it'll proceed. A brand new victim, shatter those dreams, the culture." So there's another reference to culture, right? And then let's keep going. I said I do this for my culture. This is a reference to actually a Jay-Z lyric, I believe from H to the Izzo, 2002-ish, right? To let y'all know, in Bulletproof Rover. Then it says again, "That's the culture, point the finger, promote your remote location, witness protection." So now he's talking about telling, okay? And then he says, "Never said I ain't told you, nah, in the land where hurt people, F calling it culture." And this is when the picture cuts to Will Smith comes on, and what happened to Will Smith? Well, a lot of folks said that out of his hurt that he bled on somebody that didn't cut him. That was Charlemagne the God's quote. That final line is, "Never said I ain't told you, in the land where hurt people, F calling it culture." So here Kendrick's taking a strong stance, and he's literally saying, yo, F calling all of this dysfunction that we're seeing in society, all of the shenanigans, all of the toxicity. Let's stop calling it culture. I wanted to point to something that I think Kendrick could be echoing, which is one of the faces he uses in this video in what he specifically said about these very same themes. If you guys haven't seen Kanye's Zane Lowe interview, there's this gem he drops here that I think is so telling. I gotta play it for you guys because this is instantly what I thought about when I heard this song and what Kanye says here. So this is from 2019, and this is just a brilliant interview overall. And listen to what Kanye says here.
"I thought I was the god of culture, but really culture was my god."
Wow. I thought I was the god of culture, but culture was my god. How many people right now are navigating under the pretense that, man, we're forming the culture. We're building the culture. When really the culture is what you're submitting to. The culture is what you're submitting to. Whether it's looking at what's happening in sexual culture and saying, it's a hot girl summer, we finna turn up. Whether you're looking at materialism, whether you're looking at clout, whether you're looking at all these different things, we see this all throughout where we think people are for the culture when really we're just servants to the culture. We're slaves to the culture. So listen to what Kanye keeps saying here.
And who invented the culture? The culture is cultivated by who? So if you were to think, what is the culture today? What are some of the major things that it includes? And all of the major points of what might make the culture: wearing, expensive clothes, rapping about just rap, period. Making money from rap, making money from basketball. Before I get to my point, can we name some other things that you say are part of the culture? Buying jewelry. What are some of the other things that we see on the culture? Using social media is a very major part of the culture. To be down with or with the culture, you have to use social media, right? What other?
And so when you think about all these things he's describing here, what are you doing? You're really doing it at the expense of someone else, whether it's buying designer clothes, wearing gold jewelry, flexing on other people, and then we're calling it culture. Is that not interesting in that Kanye is breaking this down? Kendrick is saying the same thing. A lot of the things we hold up in culture we think are cool, whether it's the sexual revolution, whether it's regardless, it's so bizarre. It's so toxic. I want to get more into this in terms of where I think Kendrick could be and something that Kanye says that I think could be prescribing something to Kendrick in a second. But first, we got to go to our sponsors. Hey, this video is brought to you today by our very own Bless God Shop. The name Bless God is inspired by Luke chapter 2, verse 28, where Simeon encounters a baby Jesus in the temple and proceeds to, quote, bless God. The apparel is intended as a daily reminder to live our life in a way that brings honor and blessing to God. Check out the link to the shop in the description or in the pinned comment below and pick up some of the most sustainable and high quality apparel out there. Please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. You can shoot it to the moon by simply hitting that like button. It literally costs you nothing. And if you want to go above and beyond to help us continue making videos like this, make them better, make them more frequently, make sure you partner with us on Patreon. For $5 a month, we got exclusive content here, like a whole new series we launched with me reacting to some of the most cringe TikToks in the world. So that is available all in the description below, as well as a free Master My Habits course I put together with my Christian therapist, Dr. Rudy. Okay, so let me tell you guys my story with Kendrick, and then I'll share another clip of Kanye and something I think he might be timely and prescriptive to where Kendrick is at. Now, some of you guys know this about me, some of you guys don't. If you want to learn more about this, you can go check out my Spotify. My primarily way that I got into being an independent creative entrepreneur was through the door of music. Before I was booming on YouTube, I've been putting out music for a very long time. I quit my job in 2015. YouTube really only took off for the last 2 years for me. So back in the day, I was really in the mix. I was always connected to the folks throwing the festivals. I was always connected with the different studios that people were working at. My company, King's Dream, actually did a deal with Interscope. And so a lot of times we would be working with the same A&Rs. We would be working in the same studios with the same producers and engineers as Kendrick. And before that, though, I had met Kendrick at South by Southwest. If you guys go watch Lecrae's Church Close video, and there's an opening drop from Kendrick on it. And that was the day me and Kendrick first met. He was doing a panel at a BET event about social media, oddly enough. People think like Kendrick's so mysterious and he's so cool. And on that panel, he was actually talking about how he was leveraging Twitter so that he can get more connection with his audience by putting out kind of fun, happy tweets about stuff like cereal and just more casual stuff. And he was the expert on that panel about using social media. That's neither here nor there. That's when we had first met. We briefly talked, just, super casual, dapped him up the whole bit. That same night, I ended up at a party for Interscope Records. Remember, this is South by Southwest. And so Kendrick's there. This is early on. I think this is right around when they were rolling out Good Kid, Mad City. So this is after Section 80. And we had heard about Kendrick because I'm in Southern California. It's fairly regional here. And so we saw each other again, dapped it up. Yo, good to see you, blah, 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 blah. Snapped a photo and kept it moving. Fast forward, I saw him backstage. I was with some friends at the Pay Dues Festival, and DJ Quick, who's again, huge Los Angeles legend out here. If you guys don't know who DJ Quick is, I had spent a little bit of time with DJ Quick in the studio playing him an album. He really enjoyed it. And so we were backstage hanging out with DJ Quick. Kendrick came off and DJ Quick was about to go on. So that's why I was back. There's like this weird transition, Terry. And so me and Kendrick were talking, and this isn't like a super deep, long, hour-long conversation, maybe 10-minute conversation. And I noticed back then, I said, yo, it's interesting that you hear these very serious faith-based tones in your music about Jesus, and you're hearing these things about Jesus in your music, but you're also hearing this tension and this dichotomy of what it was like growing up in Compton and all the pressures and all the social ills that you have to face. And I said, how much of this are you doing intentionally, and how much of this is just an overflow of who you are? And he was like, well, you know, my birthday is around Tupac's, and so I am both. Like, I take my faith seriously, and I believe in Jesus. This is Kendrick professing faith to my face, one-on-one, me and him talking one-on-one. This ain't through an interview. It's me and him. We're having a one-on-one conversation, and he talks about, I have faith in Jesus, right? Like, I believe in Jesus. However, I know that in the music side of things, I am going to continue making stuff that could be as wide casting as possible. Now, regardless of my personal preference of being a Christian artist and being unapologetic about my faith, I've always thought that was interesting, and I always thought that those themes consistently reoccurring in his music were interesting. And so when the Dissect podcast came out with the explanation of Damn and how much Christian influence is really on that record, but you could tell that it was like, as much of it was strategic, it was also where he was at. Now, since then, what people don't know is Kendrick's gotten married and he's settled down and he stays out of the public eye. And for a pretty mega celebrity in comparison of like the Drakes and some of the other people, he does seem to lead a rather quiet life. And I have some friends who have done marriage conferences here, Christian marriage conferences that Kendrick has showed up to in the process of his engagement and stuff like that. So he's a very interesting guy. Now, here's what I do think. I do think Kendrick is holding back in terms of being more transparent with the prescriptions that he would love to give people. Meaning this, I think Kendrick, and this is just my personal opinion, and I could be totally wrong, and I've had very limited interactions with him, though I've had interactions with him. I think Kendrick is timid to preach what he practices. I think because of the culture, he is holding back to really prescribe the very things that he's practiced in his personal life with regards to settling down, with regards to not drinking, not being a drinker, not being a smoker, not using drugs, continuing to kind of, I'd say, play both sides of the fence to pull people in to hopefully give a more positive message, but being timid to fully and unapologetically share his faith in front of the world. And he has at shows and professes faith in Jesus at shows. I would guess that he is pulling back and he's afraid to preach what he practices. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because of the bigger play. I don't know because of securing the bag, having a wide audience. I'm not quite sure what it is. But this clip from the same interview with Kanye, I think is very telling. And listen what Kanye says here.
Now that I'm in service to Christ, my job is to spread the gospel, to let people know what Jesus has done for me.
That's beautiful, right? Kanye says, now that I'm in service to Christ, my job is to spread the gospel, okay? But listen to why. Listen to what he says next. And I think what he says next is so telling. And it should encourage us. If you're a follower of Jesus, man, I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care what part of the world you're from. I don't care of any of those things. If you're a follower of Jesus, you have to be willing to preach what you practice. Okay, obviously we say practice what you preach. Yes, don't be a hypocrite. But you also got to be willing to preach what you practice, because listen to what Kanye says next.
You know, I've spread it a lot of things. There was a time I was letting you know what high fashion had done for me. I was letting you know what the Hennessy had done for me. I was letting you know all these things. But now I'm letting you know what Jesus has done for me. And in that, I'm no longer a slave. I'm a son now, a son of God. I'm free through to Christ.
Wow. So he says, I'm no longer a slave. I'm a son of God. I'm free to Christ. But what is that juxtaposed with? I've been preaching to you about what high fashion and materialism has done for me. I've been preaching to you about what the Hennessy has done for me. I've been preaching a lot of gospels to you, and those gospels were more socially accepted, and those gospels were more celebrated. But now I show up and I want to preach Christ to you and what he's done for my soul and the way he's transformed for me. And all of a sudden, the culture's not with that. And all of a sudden, oh, that's not okay. And all of a sudden, oh, he's being too religious. And I just think it's a very interesting time where for example, this past week, many of you guys know Kevin Samuels passed away, right? And so here you have Kevin Samuels in a music video with Future. And upon him passing away, the same culture that ridicules some of the advice and not problematic things Kevin Samuels has said over the years, the same culture that ridicules Kevin Samuels and laughs and mocks his death is the same very people that listen and turn up to the same content from Future, who, by the way, Kevin Samuels was in this video. The same exact content. If anything, I think Future's content is substantially more toxic. This is the hypocrisy. This is the inconsistencies. This is the nonsense that's being put out there with regards to the culture, with regards to all of these goofy things that people are saying is you're okay with saying, yeah, I'm gonna turn up to Future and Hot Girl Summer and all this nonsense, but then, oh, Kevin Samuels, he's too harsh. It's like, fam, this is substantially way more problematic. You're talking about churning up to a man that's lying to the general public about no longer doing drugs, right? His Future stopped doing drugs, but we still appreciate his art while someone passed away and you're laughing about it and you're mocking it. These are the inconsistencies in the culture. I think Kendrick is pointing something out. It's not an endorsement of Kevin Samuels or Future, and I'm not saying Kendrick is doing that, but I'm saying I think these are some of the inconsistencies that people are pointing out, that people are waking up to in terms of how toxic, how damaging, how problematic this entire do it for the culture and the cloud and all this stuff is to our actual spiritual health. And to the very things that seemingly feel good in the moment are the very things that are going to cost you your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. If you're going into whatever it is you think is about to happen this summer, Hot Girl Summer, we fun turn over, those are the very things that though they feel good in the moment are going to get in the way of the type of person you want to be and the type of person God is calling you to be. And I'm happy that more and more people are waking up and talking about this. And I think that's the beautiful part about Kendrick's new song is that he's willing to point out the hypocrisy, the inconsistencies. And I'm praying that he would be more bold and preach it more, what he's been practicing and what many of us have known that he's been practicing behind the scenes, and that there would be a cleaner congruence with his music. So if you guys want to hear how my buddy thinks that the Damn album is a Christian album, again, his words, not mine. You guys want to dive deep into that stream that I did? There's a 2-part series. I'm going to link both of those here, and you should really sit with them, right? If you're like, oh, Kendrick cusses, blah, 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 go sit with that. Not my endorsement, just something to think about. I'll see you guys later. Peace.